Msoul. How are you doing today? Are you enjoying the beautiful weather? Ooh, can't believe summer's just here. And I am enjoying it. And I love settling down in a garden with a good book. I know some of you have a book nook out there and you take some time just to read. And for those of us who don't like to read, let someone read to you. I mean, it's an old-fashioned idea, but I find it comforting. And I know for those of you who just need a moment to yourself, just a little coffee break, I'm here to spend it with you. It's always good to learn something new, hear something fun, and just enjoy a moment in your day just to yourself. So pull up a chair, get comfy, get your favorite beverage on, and let me read to you from the Sketches by Mark Twain. It's new and old stories and poems from the American Publishing Company in 1882. But the story I'm going to read to you today, well, this is a story that was written in 1865 or thereabouts. And it's a story of the good little boy. We've already heard about the bad little boy named Jim. But what of the good little boy? Let's see. Once there was a good little boy by the name of Jacob Blivens. He always obeyed his parents, no matter how absurd and unreasonable their demands were, and he always leaned back and learned from his book and never was late at Sabbath school. He would not play hockey, even when his sober judgment told him it was the most profitable thing he could do. None of the other boys could ever make the boy out, he acted so strangely. He wouldn't lie, no matter how convenient it was. He just said it was wrong to lie, and that was sufficient for him. He was so honest that he was simply ridiculous. The curious ways that Jacob had surpassed everything. He wouldn't play marbles on Sunday. He wouldn't rob birds' nests. He wouldn't give hot pennies to organ grinder monkeys. He didn't seem to take any interest in any kind of rational amusement. So the other boys used to try to reason it out and come to an understanding of him, but they couldn't arrive at any satisfactory conclusion. As I said before, they could only figure out a sort of vague idea that he was afflicted, and so they took him under their protection and never allowed any harm to come to him. This good little boy read all the Sunday school books. They were his greatest delight. This was the whole secret of it. He believed in the good little boys they put in the Sunday school books. He had every confidence in them. He longed to come across one of them alive once, but he never did. They all died because of his time, maybe. Whenever he read about a particularly good one, he turned over quickly to the end to see what became of him, because he wanted to travel thousands of miles and gaze on him. But it wasn't any use. The good little boys always died in the last chapter, and there was a picture of the funeral, with all his relations and the Sunday school children standing around the grave in pantaloons that were too short and bonnets that were too large, and everybody crying into handkerchiefs that had as much a yard and a half of stuff in them. Oh, he was always headed off in this way. He never could see one of those good little boys on account of his always dying in the last chapter. Jacob had a noble ambition to be put in a Sunday school book. He wanted to be put in with pictures representing him gloriously declining to lie to his mother, and her weeping for joy about it, and pictures representing him standing on the doorstep giving a penny to a poor beggar woman with 6 on, the bad boy, who always lay in wait for him around the corner as he came from school, and welted him over the head with a lathe, and then chased him home saying, "Hi, hi!" as he proceeded. That was the ambition of young Jacob Blivens. He wished to be put in a Sunday school book. It made him feel a little uncomfortable sometimes when he reflected that the good little boys always died. He loved to live, you know, and this was the most unpleasant feature about being a Sunday school book boy. He knew it was not healthy to be good. He knew it was more fatal than consumption to be so supernaturally good as the boys in the books, where he knew that none of them had ever been able to stand it long, and it pained him to think of that. If they put him in the book, he wouldn't ever see it, or even if they did get the book out before he died, it wouldn't be popular without any picture of his dying. So at last, of course, He had to make up in his mind to do the best he could under the circumstances, to live right, and hang on as long as he could, and have his dying speech all ready when his time came. But somehow nothing ever went right with the good little boy. Nothing ever turned out with him the way it turned out with the good little boys in these books. They always had a good time, and the bad boys had the broken legs. But in his case, there was the screw loose somewhere, and it all happened just the other way. When he found out Jim Blake stealing apples, and went under the tree to read to him about the bad little boys who fell out of the neighbor's apple trees and broke his arm, Jim fell out of the tree too, but he fell on him and broke his arm, and Jim wasn't hurt at all. Jacob couldn't understand that. There wasn't anything in the books like that. And once, when some bad boys pushed a blind man over in the mud, and Jacob ran to help him up and receive his blessing, the blind man did not give him any blessing at all, but whacked him over the head with his stick and said he wouldn't like to catch him showing up again, and then pretending to help him up. Wow, this was not in accordance with any of the books. Jacob looked them over all to see, double checking, triple checking. Oh my. One thing that Jacob wanted to do was to find a lame dog that hadn't any place to stay, was hungry and persecuted, and bring him home and pet him and have the dog's imperishable gratitude. And at last he found one and was happy, and he brought him home and fed him. But when he was going to pet him, the dog flew at him and tore all the clothes off him except those that were in front, and made a spectacle of him that was astonishing. He examined authorities, but he could not understand the matter. It was of the same breed of dogs that was in the books, but it acted very differently. Whatever this boy did, he got into trouble. The very things the boys in the books got rewarded for turned out to be about the most unprofitable things he could ever invest in. Once, when he was on his way to Sunday school, he saw some bad boys starting off pleasuring in a sailboat. He was filled with consternation, because he knew from the reading that boys went sailing on Sunday invariably got drowned. So he ran out on a raft to warn them, but a log turned with him and slid him into the river. A man got him out pretty soon, and the doctor pumped the water out of him and gave him a fresh start with his bellows. But he caught cold and lay sick of bed 9 weeks. But the most unaccountable thing about it was that all the bad boys in the boat had a good time all day, and they reached home alive and well and in the most surprising manner. Jacob Livin said that there was nothing like these things in the books. He was perfectly dumbfounded. When he got well, he was a little discouraged, but he resolved to keep on trying anyhow. He knew that so far his experiences wouldn't do to go in a book. But he hadn't reached the allotted term of life for good little boys, and he hoped to be able to make a record of it yet. If he could hold on till his time was fully up. If everything else failed, he had his dying speech to fall back on. He examined his authorities and found that it was now time for him to go to sea as a cabin boy. He called on a ship captain and made his application. When the captain asked for his recommendations, he proudly drew out a tract and pointed to the word to Jacob Livins from his affectionate teacher. But the captain was a coarse, vulgar man, and he said, "Oh, that be blowed. That wasn't any proof that he knew how to wash dishes or handle a slush bucket, and he guessed he didn't want him." This was altogether the most extraordinary thing that ever happened to Jacob in all his life. A compliment from a teacher on a tract that never failed to move the tender emotions of ship captains, and open the way to all offices of honor and profit in their gift. It never had in any book that ever he had read. He could hardly believe his senses. This boy always had a hard time of it. Nothing ever came out according to the authorities with him. At last one day, when he was around hunting up bad little boys to admonish, he found a lot of them in the old iron foundry fixing up a little joke on 14 or 15 dogs, which they had tied together in long procession and were going to ornate with empty nitroglycerin cans made fast to their tails. Jacob's heart was touched. He sat down on one of those cans, for he never minded grease when duty was before him, and he took hold of the foremost dog by the collar and turned his reproving eye upon the wicked Tom Jones. But just at that moment Alderman McWelter, full of wrath, stepped in. All the bad boys ran away, but Jacob Blivens rose in conscious innocence and began one of those stately little Sunday school book speeches which always commence with, "Oh, sir," in dead opposition to the fact that no boy, good or bad, ever starts a remark with, "Oh, sir." But the alderman never waited to hear the rest. He took Jacob Blivens by the ear and turned him around and hit him a whack in the rear with the flat of his hand. And in an instant that good little boy shot out through the roof and soared away toward the sun, and with fragments of those 15 dogs stringing after him like the tail of a kite. There wasn't a dying speech after all his trouble fixing it up, unless he made it to the birds, because although the bulk of him came down all right in a tree top in an adjoining county, the rest of him was apportioned around among the 4 townships, and so they had to hold 5 inquests on him to find out whether he was dead or not, and how it occurred. You never saw a boy scattered so. This glycerin catastrophe is borrowed from a floating newspaper item whose author's name I would give if I knew it. Mark Twain. Thus perished the good little boy who did the best he could, but didn't come to according to the books. Every boy who ever did as he did prospered except him. His case is truly remarkable. It will probably never be accounted for. Oh my, Msoul. I don't know how I feel about this one. The bad little boy ended up well, and this good little boy... Oh, so unfortunate. If I were to take a lesson from this, other than maybe the obvious one might draw, he shouldn't have been looking for boys to shame. I am sorry that he did want to save the dogs but didn't get the chance, and worse, those olden days with all those not sparing of the rod gives me a bit of a shiver. I don't know how you feel if I leave you alone with this one, but please share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you've got stories from your grandparents or great-grandparents handed down to any of this stuff, let me know. For some reason, I'm channeling all of the different Sunday school speeches and disciplinary measures in the schoolhouse in the Little House on the Prairie in Maple Grove. I'm feeling like this is kind of channeling that for me. And I'm thinking of a few teachers who admitted they liked good little girls and bad little boys. Because they didn't want problems from the girls, and they appreciated the sassiness of the boys, showing that they were thinking for themselves and being proactive. I know, what does that mean about our cultures? That's a rabbit hole we're not going to go to today, but thank you, Mark Twain. Sketches with the life to learn from. I'm not going to try to live up to any character in any storybook. It seems like that would be disastrous. I'm just going to be me. And I'm going to put this book away, being who I am. And since I love being outside so much, I'm going to go enjoy my cappuccino. Way to go, team. Maxing out the grummels, if you know what I mean. And let's get out into the universe. Let's go explore our worlds. Let's get some fresh air. Let's take a look around. If you like staying inside, just check out my playlist for tucking in chills and get some sleep with me. And all of our very cozy little meditation videos. Many of them are about gardens, animals, and all the rest. Well, that's all for me. It's time to get going. I'm going to stand up and move around now. Msoul, I think you should too. Please go find your favorite beverage and hydrate. You're worth it. Have a wonderful day out there, and I'll see you next time. I'm Venus Callida, signing off. Bye!